Welcome to another AriasWave update. In this video, I'm going to talk about the C wave, the one that I had been predicting for a long time now, but then I changed my view. And as I've explained already, the only reason I changed that view was because I saw the altcoins and the potential for a massive move up. And I thought that they were all correlated at one point. But then, as I mentioned on my website in February, I decided to dive deep into cryptos and basically change my whole view on things. Right. So, as you saw in my last XLM idea, right, we talked about XLM versus Bitcoin. Now, there's a very good reason why I haven't really been covering any other coin yet, because there is a need first to establish what is going on and why would XLM go so high. This comes back down to the question that I always used to ask myself whenever I looked at a Euro USD chart. Okay, the euro versus the US dollar. I used to ask myself this one question: is the euro going up because of the euro has strength, or is it euro going up because the US dollar has weakness? And I believe the same thing applies to these charts. Okay. Now, whether it's priced in BTC, whether it's all through BTC, it doesn't matter. There is a BTC XLM chart, which is XLMBTC, and there's also an XLM USD chart. But more importantly, there is a BTC USD chart. Okay, because if Bitcoin is the gateway coin, well, the one thing that it would be priced against the most would be against the US dollar. So we need to understand what we're seeing here, and it's all part of the bigger picture. Okay, nothing goes up forever in a straight line, and we saw wave one end at the end of 2017, and ever since then we've seen an A-B pattern. I've said this repeatedly throughout my videos in the past, up until the point where I got a little bit confused due to seeing all sorts of patterns. When you get into AriasWave, these particular corrections at first can seem pretty weird, right? Because they're so crazy, right? These moves, they move like nothing you've ever seen before, right? So coming from that whole Dow Jones currency cross pairs and commodities type world, and applying it to cryptos, it took me a little while to adjust. That's why I went through the whole bullish series. You'll find that on my website if you're interested in finding out the evolution of why I came to this conclusion and why it's ongoing. So I did say we're going to see a big crash in Bitcoin, and it's just part of a correction that is ongoing, part of a correction that is a fractal pattern. And this fractal pattern happens at all degrees of trend, right? Now, sometimes you get weak C waves, sometimes you get weak E waves, but it doesn't matter if that's an internal price structure. The larger degree price structure will always produce a result, right? Which is probably something that will come as a shock to many because they're so used to these shallow retracements. Now, when I say shallow, I don't use that term very lightly, because retracements in cryptos are not shallow percentage wise, but they do move up in large percentages. So therefore, that's why I say that. So therefore, now I'm expecting a large move down in C wave, right? So as you know, I'm expecting XLM to go straight up from here. Now you can argue until you're blue in the face whether or not it's because XLM has strength or BTC has weakness. However, if you see a big giant C wave happen in Bitcoin, it's almost a given that the strength in XLM will be driven by the move down in Bitcoin. So therefore, I have had to have a look closely at the beginning of this C wave to try to determine what we're seeing. Okay, so let's just go to the 1 hour chart so we can see what my wave count looks like. Okay, so I called the top as soon as we broke the wave 4 low, which was down here. Okay, now we saw the wave 4 low broken and retested. Right now, according to this count, which to me is probably correct, most likely correct. It could be wrong, but just looking at this move here, this does not look like a zigzag. Sorry, I messed that up. Give me a sec. This move here, sorry, what's going on here? That's right, I don't have that trend line thing going. 1 second, please bear with me. Okay, this here does not look like a zigzag. So if you try to make something out to be what it's not, you're going to come across a few problems which will impact your analysis. So therefore, I looked closely at the wave 1 down and had a look down here, and I could see two small zigzags. So to me, this is an ABC pattern, and the D was the largest move down. Okay, so the D wave was the one that broke through the support. Now, I usually do call D wave the breakout wave, whether it's up or down. It doesn't matter, right? Because we're dealing with fractal patterns. 5 waves up, 5 waves down, the same patterns are contained within each one. It just depends at what degree you're looking at it. That will help determine, or that will help you determine what pattern you're seeing. So in this particular case, right, if you look at the top where C wave ends, you can see, right, a 3-wave move. Okay, now what gives it away that it's a 3-wave move? Well, it's quite simple. If you look at a 5-wave move, right, the middle part is usually the sharpest portion of the move. But here you can see that the middle part was not the sharpest portion of the move. Therefore, it adds credence to the count. Then we saw a bounce back. Now, this is a bounce back to retest the breaking of the previous wave 4 low, the lowest point. Okay, so this is sort of evidence that I'm going to use once we break up in XLM into above the all-time high. Okay, so it's the same sort of dynamic. It's something that takes a lot of practice to understand, but I tell you what I see so you can understand it. Otherwise, there would be not much point coming up with my analysis if I didn't explain it. So therefore, if you pay close attention, you might actually learn something, because I basically tell you how it works. And if you can figure it out, then you don't have to pay for the course. Basically, like, I'm actually teaching it, but I'm not giving it to you directly and explaining it in a way that is the right way. I'm giving it to you indirectly. And if you can figure it out, then props to you. It only took me quite a few years, but hey, you are probably better than I. So go for it. I just had the patience to try. So the one thing that we're looking at here now, after this E, could potentially only be one thing. A 5-wave move for the next move down, wave 1. So in this case, we're going to call it, well, we'll call it wave I. Okay, so we're talking about a third of a third wave. So now this is where the interesting part begins. Okay, because we've seen a bounce. Now, we've seen a bounce in a lot of other coins too, which kind of like makes me think hang on, did wave I actually end here, or did it end here? So is this a 5-wave move? So looking at what happened after that, I can see potentially 2 zigzags. So I can go ahead then and say, okay, fine, maybe that's an A and maybe that's a B. And then what we're seeing now is simply a C wave bounce. Now, that adds a little bit more credence to the XLM idea where we are expecting a wave D to the upside, followed by a retest of the all-time highs. So therefore, I conclude that what we're seeing here will do this afterwards. D to break that low and retest a break of the beginning of E wave of wave 2. All right. So we're looking for clues. We piece the clues together, and then we take it from there. Okay. That's why I'm keeping it simple right now. I'm going to go back through all my other coins, but first we need to establish some groundwork, and we need to try and figure out which coins are moving with Bitcoin and which coins are moving with XLM, right? So that's basically what it's become for me now because of the evidence. Okay, so whether that means I have to go through each individual coin and each individual coin against BTC, well, that's what I'll do. But first, we need to understand that what we are seeing here is a C wave. Now, C waves are nothing to play with. They are pretty insane waves. Right? So if I was to say that what we've seen already was the end of this particular C wave, well, just take a good look at the previous A and B. Look how large they were, right? Now, if you think that the C wave in wave 2, because mind you, this is part of an ongoing correction that is wave 2. This is just for example. I'm not saying that wave 2 will end where I have put it, right? Just understand that we are in a wave 2 correction. So if you think that wave C will only go as low as where we are now, well, the waves internally tell me that no, that's not true. And in fact, we are only just getting started in this correction to the downside. So I expect this wave C to go back down to the lows. Okay. When I say the lows, back to at the minimum where the end of wave A was, which is around $3,000. Okay, so that is pretty crazy, right? That's an insane thing to happen. But you have to think about it. Why is XLM projected using AriasWave to go so high, right? Is it because XLM is gaining value or price, or is it because Bitcoin is losing value or price, right? So therefore, my conclusion is that these are going to move against each other, okay? I've explained this already. I just want to rehash. I'm going to have to do a lot of diving on the other coins. So just trying to establish some groundwork here. This seems to make sense to me right now if you're looking at it in that perspective. Okay, so the initial move down in XLM, well, you have to think about it, right? If you go to the XLM chart, let's just go to the XLM chart for a moment, right? Okay, so I know I've got a bunch of stuff on this chart. I'm just going to get rid of it for a second, right? And we happen to be missing a label, which sometimes happens for some reason. I don't know why. I do use various different XLM charts, so that doesn't surprise me too much. So basically, we're going to see like something happen that is going to basically change the way that you see the cryptos, right? Because naturally you would think that if Bitcoin crashes, then everything crashes. But is that really the case? Right? Is that really the case? Now, to be honest with you, you have to look more at the XLMBTC chart to really gain that perspective. Okay? You have to look at that chart because the other one is not going to give you that kind of perspective because it's only part of the picture, right? Because price flows through Bitcoin, right? That's how all altcoins are calculated. So if AriasWave is correct, and if AriasWave works, then this will play out exactly the way I said that I'm saying, right? So that means we're going to see, like I said to you in the Bitcoin chart, a 3-wave move to the upside, followed by a retest, which will complete wave B. Okay, so that will mean that we will see wave D, like so, even color-coded for your, to help you understand, right? Followed by wave E. So we're beginning to see something here, right? Something interesting. And then we're going to go for that wave C. Now, that projection may be higher, okay? The previous projection was only taken because initially I thought that the wave B had ended lower. So this is the minimum expectation. It could go basically as high as, well, take the measurement from A and measure from the end of B when B wave ends. We can't give you that now because I don't have a crystal ball, basically. So if I'm correct, we're going to see 3 waves up, 5 waves down in XLM against BTC. Okay, going back to the XLM chart, right? We're going to see 3 waves up for D, right? Followed by 5 waves down for E. Okay, now this is only for illustration purposes. Don't quote me on this because we have to see this first before we can say that the B wave has completed. Once we've seen that, then we can make our calculations as to how high it will go. Now, I've already said here in XLM that we can expect $160 if E wave ends back at the all-time high once it breaks above it. And the only way to confirm that is if you get a break of the top, or the start of E wave, yet to be seen. So right now, all the evidence is suggesting that we have to be patient. Okay, we have to wait for these patterns to unfold. But I do believe that this C wave in XLM is complete. Because of the XLM BTC chart, and now also because of the BTC chart and the pattern that is going on, is suggesting that wave C has only just begun. Okay, like I said to you before, this was not a 5-wave move. So this is not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bottom because it can't be. It's just not possible. So that's the kind of thinking that AriasWave uses when coming up with ideas, trading ideas. And as you can imagine, it takes time to learn AriasWave and then apply it. And not to mention all the back testing you got to do just to make sure that you understand exactly what you're thinking is right and how to detect these waves and how to observe them at all degrees of trend. So hopefully this has given you a little bit of perspective as to what I expect is going to happen in Bitcoin. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we break that low. And hopefully you found this video interesting and informative. Thank you for watching.